Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Advanced WordPress Theme Development. I hope you are enjoying the course so far and pretty interesting things happening. And in this tutorial we're going to learn about the sass. So we're going to learn about how to set up the sass. So as you might already aware about that, sass is a preprocessor scripting language that is interpreted or compiled into cascading style sheets. So it just makes our job a lot easier because we can go ahead and have a modular structure for our CSS files. We can break our files into smaller components, like for header, footer, let's say we have carousel, etc., and then we can club it together using the add import statement, and then also the syntax that is used in sass, like the nested elements. You have mixins available that you can use that are going to be really helpful for you when you're working with CSS. Just makes your job a lot easier, and eventually it is compiled into CSS syntax, which can then be consumed by your theme. Okay, so let's begin off how to set up sass. I'm sure if you're already aware about sass. If not, then you can read about sass and then probably come back to the video. Okay, great. So the first thing we're going to do is install node-sass and also sass-loader, because so we are using webpack as a module bundler. So webpack will require the sass-loader to understand its syntax and everything, and then convert it into JavaScript, and then again we have the CSS loader available, which will then convert into array of JavaScript, and then we have mini extract plugin, which will then extract the CSS out of it and give us in a single file. So that's kind of a flow. So and then we're also going to use one more package, which is called sass-mq, and I will tell you in a moment as to why we are going to use that and how helpful will that be. Okay, but let's just go ahead and install it quickly. Okay, while it's installing, I think we can read about sass-mq. Sass-mq. So basically, sass-mq allows you to take advantage of, first of all, the shorter syntax. So take a look at this. So MQ is basically a sass mixin that helps you compose your media query in an elegant way. So you can define your media query like this. Then instead of writing like a long syntax of, let me show you, media query CSS. So instead of writing like this long syntax, it actually shortens it for you because you're using a mixin. So you use @include and then MQ, and then you can have, like, if you want to apply it from mobile up until tablet and from one place to another. So how it helps you is because you could use variables also in sass, but it allows you to define it one place, and then it allows you to use the mixin, and then it gives you some kind of these variables that you can use, and then it finally compiles to this basically. So you can see that this is more cleaner compared to this one, and then here you are hard coding things and everything, but here it's simpler, right? Again, if you say to me that, oh, I would have used the sass variable, yes, you can, but then look at this. This is so clean over here compared to this one, right? Okay, so brilliant. And then also you can just put the @include inside of that particular class instead of defining @media query at two different places like this, here and here. You can write all the media query related to that particular element inside of it. Okay, so all the informations are available here about sass-mq. You can read about it. I think by this time our package would have been installed. Yes, it is. All the packages are installed. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to provide this configuration in the webpack. So remember that in the webpack.config.js we already have a CSS loader. Yeah, we already have a CSS loader here. I have to add information about the sass loader as well. Okay, so and then it's going to look for the .scss extension. Okay, all the files that ends with .scss. So we've got the sass loader. Brilliant, that's great. And then next thing we're going to do is basically create a sass folder here in our source directory and add all of the files. So I'm going to save time because this is not a CSS tutorial and this is not a sass tutorial. This is theme development. So I'm just going to take advantage of what I have already created. So if you go to my repository and make sure to start it like the other people have given, you click on the setup stars. This would have been closed, I believe, by then, by the time you look at this, and just go to feature setup sass. So just from the branch, just go to feature setup sass, and then you can also download it quickly like I have, and then just go ahead and then open it inside of the and inside of this you have the assets source sass. So you have a sass directory. I'm just going to copy it directly and then paste it over here. Alright, so now you have the sass available here, and I'm just going to explain to you what all is happening, right? I'm not going to spend time in creating all of these files. So let's start from the top one. So here we have settings folder inside of sass. We have different colors that are defined. Again, if you don't know sass, then probably it's better to learn it and then come back to it. So these are all your colors, okay? And then inside of typography, you have the font that we are using. So remember, we are using the Lato font. So we're just putting that here. You've got the font code, font fallback, and font baseline height. And then we are using the body text font sizes. We are just adding that when the screen is small, then make the font size is this much and the line height is this much. Okay, for H1, for H2 in small it's going to be this, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's pretty much the body text variable. Okay, and then we go inside of the variables. So remember when we were doing the sass-mq, when we were taking a look at the sass-mq, it asks us to provide the mq breakpoint and then define all of this. That's what you've done over here. So I've defined my breakpoints. You can change these names the way you want. It's completely up to you. Like they have done wide and everything, and I'm doing X large, so you can change them. And then as a default, all right. And then I also have this border radius variable here. Also, it's important to define all of your Z index at one place. So many times you must have observed that many developers who don't understand Z index, what they do is to override the Z index, they give 9999, right? And then they first go ahead and give a Z index of 9999, and then if they want to override it, then they will just keep increasing it to 999999 and so on and so forth. But that's not the way things work, So Z-index specifies the stack order of a positioned element. Okay, and you don't really need to give 4 times 9. In fact, you should always start with 1. Okay, and then if you want the next element to have a higher stacking order in the Z-axis, then you should just give it a 2 and a 3 and a 4. But when the website becomes really large and we've got lots of CSS going on, lots of Z-index, etc., sometimes it becomes really difficult to keep track of it. And this is the reason why people just keep on giving some magic numbers for Z-index. They give it a 1 and they give a number to Z-index for one element, and then they forget where they've given, so just keep increasing. But if you follow this practice of defining Z-index at one place like this, so like for example, you can have Z-index for element 1, and you can probably say it like Z-index for header, you can put as 1, and then probably for the content or for the banner, let's say for banner, or for the hero section for that matter, let's say hero section, I can put Z-index 2, and then oops, and then for the maybe for the carousel you can have Z-index of 3. So you can always come back and check as to which are the elements who are taking the higher stacking order, and then you can actually give the right index number. So this is really helpful because then you don't end up giving this 999 those magic numbers, right? Anyways, so let's get back. So I'm just leaving it as it is, as we may require that in the project. If we don't, it's fine. Let's just keep it here for now. Okay, so you've got the z-index, we've got all of the settings, and settings is the place where we just import all of the files. So we import the color, the typography, the variable, and z-index. Okay, and then we have tools, and the reason why I'm numbering it, like prefixing it by 0, 1, 2, so that they are arranged in the way I want, the folders, just to make sure they are arranged properly. Then we have functions. We can create a function for background URL so that we always have this defined at one place, and we can, if we happen to change the path, we can just change it at one place. Then we have the mixins available, so for centering, for font smoothing, for font family, we're using variables here. Then we have this mixin for body text, so we can just pass the variables. So you can see that add the font scale with media query as per configuration of the body text. And this, for example, we can include the H1, and this will add the font sizes, line height with different breakpoints. So like what we've defined the typography over here for H1, so we can just pass this H1. We can do like @include body text and then pass H1 as a variable, and then it'll ensure that it'll apply this font size on. Okay, so then we have the placeholders for if we want any clear fix or all of these things. Then we have tools. So in tools we are just importing functions, mixing, and placeholders. So let's go back to the next one, which is generic. In generics we have buttons. Currently we don't have anything. We have common classes. So here we have created a class for screen readers so that it's hidden to the user but visible to, but screen readers can actually read that element. You have left, right, text, all of these classes like hide, rather than giving display none and forgetting about it, you can just define it at one place. Okay, visibility, etc. Then you have editor, color classes, which we will come back to later when we are making our theme ready for Gutenberg. We have these elements where we have all of the elements CSS written like default CSS. Then we have the generic, we are just including all of these files. Then we have the icons. We don't have anything in the icons currently, and we are using normalize.scss to normalize the CSS that browser applies by default. Then we have the WP SCSS, where we kind of override the CSS that's being applied by WordPress, and then we also have this site content class over here. Okay, so generic is done, and come back to utilities. We have the animation, so anything related to animation classes will be here, like fade in, fade out. And then finally in essentials we're just importing the settings, which is this. We are also importing sass-mq because if you notice I need to import it. Okay, and we also need to import the tools, which we're doing here. And then finally inside of our main.css, so we created two files, main.scss and single.scss. so main.scss will be on all of the throughout the site, and single.scss will probably be on a single page. Okay, again we may not need it, but we're just keeping it for now. So if you take a look in the main.scss, we have the essentials. So essential is going to include the settings, the tools. So if you take a look, the settings, the tools, and then we also, this is going to include the generic. Okay, and we currently haven't included the utilities because we haven't got anything inside of it. All right, brilliant. So and now what we're going to do is we'll go back to our JavaScript file, and we have to make sure that we import it, because if we don't import it, Webpack won't know that we need to bundle it. So this will be your this will be your styles. Okay, let's zoom it. We'll do import. Where is it? We have double.sass and then main.scss, and then we just put it over here. And then finally, now we can just run npm run dev. And what do we expect to happen? So take a look at the Webpack configuration and see what happens here. So we'll go to Webpack configuration, and over here is going to use the sass-loader and the sass-loader as well, and then it's going to extract the, so because we are actually importing the main.css, it's just going to it's just going to add the CSS into the main.scss, which is here. But because we are using the mini CSS extract plugin, what this is going to do is it's going to extract the CSS from the main.js and then give us that in the CSS directory inside of the main.scss, right? So take a look. So take a look here. What we are telling mini CSS extract plugin is that go ahead and extract the CSS and then put it inside of the CSS slash whatever the name of the file is, and that's exactly what it is doing. So you'll say to me, Imran, why did we actually import the Sass file inside of the JavaScript? Well, the reason for this is because, like I explained earlier, that Webpack doesn't understand style sheets or CSS, etc. It doesn't even understand the files and images. All it understands is JavaScript. Now, because we are using the loaders like the sass-loader and sass-loader, so those are the ones who convert the CSS into JavaScript. And then finally, we ask the mini CSS extract plugin to extract the CSS out of this main.js file, and then finally give it to us in the directory that we are asking for. So since we are telling our plugin over here that go ahead and extract it and put it inside of the CSS folder inside of the whatever the name of the file is, that's exactly what it is doing. And similarly, if you had the single.scss, and so now if we go to our single and then include our styles here for the single.scss, what this is going to do is this is going to use those loaders, the CSS and the Sass loaders, to convert it into JavaScript, and then finally our extract plugin is going to extract that CSS out of this single.js and put that inside of CSS with that name. So take a look. Now if you go back, here you go. So now you can see that this is what we have here. Awesome, great. I think there's one more thing we need to do. We need to come in over here and include this style sheet. Okay, so we need to include the main.scss. So how do we do that? So I'm just going to go ahead and copy one of these and just paste it over here. I'm going to rename this to WP register styles. We're going to name this as main.css, and this is going to be Aquila. So we have a CSS URI which we're going to use, and then CSS URI is going to give us the path up until this. Okay, and then this is going to be main.css, so put that main.css, and of course we don't need the jQuery, so because this is a CSS, and in the file time I'm going to use build CSS directory path. We've already created these constant. This is going to give me the path up until the CSS directory path, absolute path, and then this is going to be main.css. okay, and then all I have to do is just enqueue it. Let's make sure the bootstrap is on top, and then we have our main.css over here. Oops. Okay, and that's it. So let's take a look if this works. Let's go over here, let's refresh. Okay, looks like it's working. And I'm going to check the page source. I'm going to check main.css. Here it is, this one. You click on it, got all of the CSS extracted by the extract plugin, and we can go ahead and have a modular pattern of having the styles in different files, and then finally it clubs it together into one file so that we just have one request. And what we can also do is we can start moving our CSS from the style.css, because we don't want to go ahead and make this untidy. So this is like an image, so this can go into generic, or maybe elements. This can go into elements. So I'll just check generic elements. Do we already have something called image? We already have, right? Max width 100% and everything. So I don't need this, so I'll get rid of that. And then updated, not published. This is entry meta, so this is gonna go to updated not published. This is entry meta, so this is probably can go to layouts, I believe. So we can create another one directory and we'll name it as layouts, and inside of this we can create a directory called posts, and then we can put like post meta.scss and just do an underscore and put that here. And then inside of the main.css I can import my layouts, add import layouts posts, and then I'll have the meta. Okay, so I've got that. Let's move the nav item into something that's related to nav. So I'm gonna do nav, or we can do like header. So the header, this is the nav actually, so this should go to header, right? So this will be header, and this can be like, there can be another folder inside of it, and we can call it nav. And inside of nav I can have navigation, right, .scss, and just paste it over here, and let's make sure that we import the header also inside of the main.css. So I'm going to import header post header, and then navigation, nav, and then navigation. Awesome. Let's move the pagination. I'm gonna take the pagination, and of course we don't need this now, so we'll get rid of that. And let's do the pagination. So where do we put the pagination? Well, pagination is something related to posts, so I can just create pagination.scss, and I'll put that here. Again, I have to import it inside of my main.css. Oops, not this one, this one. Post pagination, and that's it. So you can see now that my style.css looks more cleaner. There's nothing inside of it, and I have more organized structure for the sass, right? And now let's just ensure our style is being applied. Let's refresh. Okay, let's just ensure that we have the styles being applied. So we'll take a look. Body. So you can see that Bootstrap is actually applying its own styles. So what we're going to do is we'll go to the class assets, and we're going to ensure that our style, which is main.css, is loaded after Bootstrap, right? So I'm going to pass it like a dependency over here. This is the use of the dependency, because if I want something to be loaded, I provide the dependency. So I'm wanting to put the dependency of this to be Bootstrap, because I want my main.css to be loaded after Bootstrap, so that I can override the Bootstrap style. So that's why I passed this in the parameter, this handle that we have. So, and then also just correction over here, this is not true, this is all. So because I want to apply this styles on all screens. So let's take a look. I'm gonna go to the browser and just refresh it, and now if we do an inspect element, you'll notice that if you go to body, now you can see that this style are being applied. So like I explained to you in my previous video, I'm not very fan of important when you have the power to include the styles, like override the styles by including them below the Bootstrap by defining the dependency, since WordPress has given us that option. So now if you take a look inside of the head section, and if you look at the Bootstrap, so I'm going to search for main.css. Here it is. So this is my main.css, as you can see, and then you should have the Bootstrap somewhere. Here it is. So now you can see Bootstrap is loading first, and then our style is being loaded. If you would have reversed that case, then Bootstrap style would have been applied. So you can see that it's coming from the Bootstrap actually. Let me zoom it in. So the first one is coming from Bootstrap. It's getting overridden by the the font size and everything that we have defined actually. Okay, and I think 14 pixels is too small. for the font. So let me just change that. Body text, body, and then I'm going to come to pagination. I'm going to go to typography. What is my body? So body is like 14 pixel. No, that's too small. Large should be, in fact, this can be 15 pixels, and then this can be 18 pixels. So let's, yeah, this is 16 and this is 18. Let's try that. Yeah, much better. I think this looks better. It's more readable. Perfect. So now you can see that because we added the large on the body, so when this mixin is being applied, it is automatically picking up on the large, which means anything that's on a larger screen size use this font size, 18 pixels. Now the font size is big, and if it's a small screen size and above, it's going to use the 16 pixels. For small and above, it's going to take 16 pixels, and then for the regular, when there is nothing is specified, it'll just take a normal font size. So I hope this is clear to you how the Webpack and the Babel and everything works, how this import and export, how this import and everything works. I'm explaining it to you step by step, in detail, in depth, so that it's clear in your head. And if it is clear, you can build big applications. You don't have to worry. Okay, great. So this is brilliant. This is more organized, and I hope you did like the video. If you did, please give a thumbs up and do subscribe to my channel if you aren't already. And do star my repository to support my work like this beautiful 20 people have. And do follow me on GitHub as well to support my work. And if you did like my work, please nominate me for GitHub Stars by going on to stars.github.com/nominate. Awesome, great. So I'm going to see you in the next video, and we'll start doing these cool things that we have been doing. In fact, before we say goodbye, I think